Being a marketer's no sweat. You just have to manage dozens of channels, launch hundreds of campaigns, score thousands of leads, and okay, fine, it's a lot of sweat. Unless you have HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools to help you do all that and more. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
Liverpool slog out a draw against an injury-riddled Arsenal. Ha 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 ha. You know the joke. Chelsea show Newcastle, whose boss Cole Palmer's back in town, firing on all cylinders. And United stumbled to another loss against an out-of-form West Ham United. Tottenham spurs things up away at Palace, and normal service resumes as Man City top the table. Welcome to Game Week 9 of the Final Whistle podcast. We're going to discuss all things that happened this game week. And a spoiler alert, there was a lot of last-minute goals in this fixture list. So joining me on this podcast to talk about all the fixtures and everything that happened, I am delighted to be joined by my co-host, Ben Pescod. Ben, welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a crazy weekend. Like you say, a lot of late goals, a lot of drama as always, and some really, really good football being played as well. So,
yeah, absolutely. Last week it was a trend of referees having to go to the VAR screen for pointless things, and this week it was a team salvaging points in injury time, and we're going to get into it. But first, let's start with the big game, the 4:30 kickoff. Arsenal 2, Liverpool 2. There was a lot of talk before this game about all the injuries that Arsenal had, hence why I made a little joke in my little intro. Stacker starts, and so does Timber. But yeah, what did you make of this one?
Yeah, I thought it was a good game. I thought it was really interesting, and like you say, I think we were all kind of expecting Saka and Timber to start. And then, funny enough, Timber ended up going off, so he clearly wasn't fully fit anyway. And it's just one of those where I think Arsenal will be disappointed, but I also think Liverpool will be a bit disappointed that they didn't kick on, maybe grab all three, especially when they bring it back to 2-2. But the fight Liverpool showed, going behind twice and coming back, is quite impressive, especially away at Arsenal, which is a tough game. City lost there last season. Yeah, not many teams go to Arsenal and get points. So it's a good result on the face of it for Liverpool. I think Arsenal will be kicking themselves a little bit, but I think a draw was probably a fair result in the end.
Yeah, but I pretty much would agree with you on most of that. When I saw Saka start, I was like, he's going to be a bit rusty. And, it's going to take him a moment. But I thought the way he skinned Robertson for that goal was quite embarrassing for Robertson.
Yeah, it's a bit worrying. There's been some question marks over Robertson for a few weeks, months. People were saying that that's a position that Liverpool need to improve on next, perhaps, and he's done himself no favour there. He was pretty poor last week, if I remember correctly, as well. But yeah, he gets absolutely torn apart by Saka there, and it's a great finish from Saka as well. Yeah. He's in really good form as well. He's a brilliant player, but Robertson should definitely deal with it a bit better. I mean, the goal pretty much comes from nothing, because I actually thought Liverpool started quite well, quite controlled, and then that long ball was, I could be wrong, but it's the first notable chance I really remember them having. And they punish Liverpool, and then it's an uphill battle from there.
It is, and then obviously Virgil van Dijk coming back and scoring the header. Nice little set piece there. Diaz, Trent delivering the corner. Diaz little flick at the back of his head, and Virgil van Dijk just showing that he's an absolute nemesis in both boxes. But it was great to see him get a goal, and then of course the game turned a little bit. For me, the first half was more frantic than the second. And then it goes to 2-1, and that's where the Marino goal, and the VAR checking Virgil van Dijk's boot, which took an absolute age. And I think for me, one of the sticking points was from that game was, as most of you were, I watched it on Sky, and Gary Neville was on commentary, and he was extra salty about Virgil van Dijk today. I don't know what was going on with him, but he woke up this morning and decided he did not like Virgil van Dijk at all and wanted to blame him for everything and all the world calamities That's what it felt like to me. Maybe it's because United lost as well. But yeah, I thought in the first half it was a bit more sort of chaotic game, and I don't think it suited Arne Slot or how he likes them to play. I think it suited Arsenal really well. And I thought in the second half, though, what did you make of this? Because I felt like it was very stop-start. Arsenal had 2 big injuries as well. Gabriel, a huge loss for them. He got taken off, and of course Timber did as well. But I found it very stop-start. I felt like it lacked rhythm in the second half.
Yeah, I thought that, to be fair, and Arsenal had a lot of criticism over their sort of dark arts and the time wasting, and they were doing it again today. I'm sure before the halftime whistle they were holding the ball in the corner, and it's just so it does make the game really boring at times. And I thought it was a bit of a killer today, the time wasting and the constantly going down for injuries. I mean, both of the players went off in the end, so they probably were injured, but it doesn't take 3 or 4 times to go down before you finally realise that you're injured. And just on that Van Dijk thing, I actually watched the game without the commentary on.
Oh, I need to do that.
Yeah, I sometimes try to do it, especially when Gary Neville's commentating on Liverpool. I didn't last week when he commentated on Liverpool-Chelsea, and I regretted it because he was saying Mo Salah should be booked for a clear penalty and stuff like that. So I thought this week I would go without it, and maybe it shows the different perceptions you have from the game, because I actually thought Van Dijk was really good. I thought Van Dijk and Konate didn't really do an awful lot wrong, and they were dominant in the air. And I mean, there was some points where Van Dijk was heading the ball 40 yards, just because it's absolutely mental. I thought they were really good. I thought Robertson on the left was really dodgy, and I thought Chen got caught out a couple of times, which probably didn't help them. But I thought the 2 centre backs were really good again for Liverpool.
I 100% agree with you. I could not tell you. I actually, normally it's always Virgil van Dijk. I think Konate was more superior in this one. Of course, Virgil van Dijk will get it because obviously he got the equalising goal to make it 1-1. And then Mo Salah just do Mo Salah things. But Trent, like you said, he's really anonymous. Then he pings that ball to Nunez, and then Salah in 81 minutes. And I think it was coming because Slot made some subs where I thought Diaz looked really off. And, I thought Gakpo's inclusion and Szoboszlai inclusion into the midfield just made things a bit more interesting for Liverpool, because I felt like they were very slow, sluggish. I felt like every time they had the ball, they were just moving it so slow that Arsenal were allowed to sort of get 10 men behind the ball again, because I think that was their sort of game plan after the Gabriel injury. I think, although we know they do play quite a reserved, negative kind of game, I felt like they were more negative, and I get it because they just lost another defender. But that was the feeling I was getting from them.
Yeah, I get what you mean. And just going back to that goal from Liverpool, when Nunez is running through, the composure he has to pick out that pass, he wouldn't have done that last season, I don't think. It's a lovely little pass inside of Salah, who was always going to score from there. But that's the sort of, we're seeing these improvements from players under Slot, and that's another one of those performances where it reminds me a little bit of the performance last year at the league at the Emirates, and then obviously Van Dijk and Alisson made that mistake, and the game kind of runs away from Liverpool. And I think there is just that sense of control and no real panic. They just build the way back into the game, and I thought it was really, really impressive. And I thought that decision at the end, by the way, I've seen Arsenal fans kicking off about where it hits the post and they tap it in. It's a definite foul on Szoboszlai, and then I'm sure Havertz just chucks Trent into the goal as he goes to clear it. I don't think and have too many complaints about that one.
No, they can't. But we will say one thing, Arsenal fans, that was definitely a corner and not a throw-in. Jimmy Cass definitely got a touch on that, so we agree with you on that. I tell you what, the bizarrest thing in that game was the fact that I've just discovered a new rule in football. So if you kick the football in a player's face, you will get booked. And it's a foul against you.
That's really, really wound me up. Really wound me up. I was watching the game with my dad, and I just looked at him. I was like, "Am I the one being stupid here, or am I on a different planet?" Because how is that?
Your dad was thieving at that.
Yeah, he wasn't.
What happened to? Yeah. And
then he got even more wound up when Trossard was down holding his face. I mean, you're a professional footballer. I'm sure you can take a ball to the face without rolling around on the floor. But honestly, it's so frustrating. Just decisions like that, it just reeks of referees that haven't played the game, and it's fair enough. The referee maybe doesn't see it, but the linesman, how can he flag for a foul there? It's so frustrating.
Yes. So overall, a 2-2 result. I think, it seems like a fair result. Ben, what are we discussing next?
Let's go with West Ham Man United.
Oh, all right then. So it finished 2-1. It was a 2 o'clock kickoff today. There's plenty of 2 o'clock kickoffs today, actually. 3 today.
Yeah.
Go on then. I don't know about Man United because they keep doing... I thought they played quite well in the first half. They had some good chances. They hit the crossbar a fair few times. That I think it's Dalot that just absolutely squandered probably one of the best chances you'll find. And it just summarises Man United, doesn't it? And then obviously Somerville scores in the second half. Casemiro equalises. The controversy is the penalty, and I will say that was an embarrassing penalty given.
Yeah, it is really.
Runnings, if anyone didn't see it, but yeah, they kind of lunge into each other, and he just backs off, and you can tell that he's backing off. It was just so stupid, but I think trouble is ruined at Old Trafford now and at Manchester United. This is not acceptable.
Yeah, I think that leaves them 14th in the league. If I could, don't quote us on that, but I'm sure that drops them down.
You keep talking.
Yeah, so people like to overanalyze these sort of things and against certain teams and the style of play. But the best thing to judge a manager off is league position, and Man United being in 14th, regardless of the situation, regardless of the different excuses they're making or the fixture run, it's just not acceptable. And I really struggle to see him. I mean, if he keeps the job after this, then I just don't know, because the annoying thing today for them will be that West Ham side was really poor again. They didn't really lay a glove on Man United until the last 20 minutes or so, and it's really, really worrying.
And the scary thing here is as well, people are saying Man United, I'm going to be real, Man United are playing exactly like they did last season. Now, if I'm a Man United fan, I'd be more irked this season given the money and the players that they brought in. So if I was a Manchester United fan, I'd feel like this is so much worse.
Yeah, I get that. You spent a lot of money in the summer, and
you were meant to get better, and and for me, that is a problem. The thing is, he's brought those players in, so it's whether or not Sir Jim Radcliffe and co stick or twist with him, because it's a very expensive business, taking care of Man United or owning Man United, because you're constantly getting a new manager who wants new players. He's had a long time here at Old Trafford, and it's just not happening, with Manchester United. But West Ham, like you said, it didn't land a glove. It's a massive point for Lopetegui. He's a new manager in a new job. He does have a good squad. I think he's got some very good players. I just think he needs maybe a little bit of time, like what we saw last season with Bournemouth and their new manager.
Yeah, I would like to see them go for it a bit more in games. They've got that quality to be able to do so, and I do think kind of the way he sets them up at times is a bit negative for when you look at some of the quality that they have with Bowen. And I know Kudus is suspended, but obviously him as well, and Paqueta. And I just think the way that he sets them up sometimes is kind of you use your main threats where they're best at, and kind of don't play defensively when you don't have a great defence, and play a time when you have a good attack. It's really that simple. Sometimes, like I say, people can overanalyze things, but you've just got to play to your strengths, and I have no doubt that if they go back to doing that, they'll cause more teams trouble like they did today, and they'll start moving up the table.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those where he does like the bare minimum, but I feel like, Manchester United fans are probably the end of the tether with Eric Ten Hag. Watch this space. Right, Ben, where next?
We'll stick with the Sunday games. We'll go Crystal Palace, Tottenham.
I just think Spurs are massively unpredictable. Shout out to Crystal Palace, first win of the season, Mateta goal. I felt like Spurs applied a little bit of pressure after that, but then Palace kind of grew into it more and more in the second half. They even almost had like a penalty shout as well. I don't think, I was looking at the stats. Palace didn't have an awful lot of possession, but it felt like it was a grind and a graft to get 3 points.
Yeah, it's a strange one because I feel like everyone gets really carried away with this Tottenham side at times, and
I think they're unpredictable.
Yeah, they are. They're really unpredictable, and I know we've praised them a couple of times over the recent weeks for their talent play. And
let's speak what they did to West Ham in the space of minutes, and then you get this.
But I kind of had this thought. I think it was earlier today. I was listening to a football podcast, and they were praising Tottenham, saying like they nailed on to get top 4. They're brilliant, and like the 2 wins that have made people say that was obviously Man United and West Ham. But then in both of them games, people were quick to jump on the fact of how poor Man United and West Ham are. So it kind of raises the question: are Tottenham playing as well as what people are making out when they're beating these teams, or are the teams just kind of making it a bit easier for them?
I think what it is with Spurs is when they're good, they're really good, and what they do is they completely like put the sword to you, but in a matter of minutes. And then when they're bad, they will like capitulate. It's just they go from one extreme to the other, I guess. Yeah,
defensively they're really weak. Really, really weak. And
shouldn't be given the players that they have.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I really like Van de Ven individually. I think Romero's an alright player. I think he's a bit kind of erratic in his decision making sometimes. And I think Adogi's a bit suspect defensively as well. But Palace will not have a penalty in this one as well. I thought the one I think it would have been soft. I think it's one of those where if it was given, it would have been soft. But that's just another prime example of like how chaotic Tottenham defending can be. I mean, he skips past 2 of them and then someone kind of just like falls onto him. It's really disappointing. I'm sure Tottenham fans will be really disappointed about this one because it's just 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back constantly, and you're not gonna go anywhere doing that.
The NBA is finally back. A new season means new ways to get into the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Who's draining threes from beyond the arc? Who's crashing the boards and grabbing rebounds? Get behind your favorite players in the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. Money lines, parlays, props, live bets, and so much more. The betting options feel endless on DraftKings. First time, new DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Every point counts with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code IHEART. That's code IHEART for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 and over. Ohio only. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball.
No, you're absolutely not right. Let's move on then. So, Chelsea 2, Newcastle United 1. Cole Palmer, it felt like he's actually off international break now because he was missing in action against Liverpool. He was back today. Lots of talk about, of course, he scored a goal. It was offside. Played a pass to Neto, didn't he? On the 15th minute, and what a pass it was, and then he just squares it, and Jackson just finishes off that wonderful counter attack. Isak then equalises. Second half, Chelsea come out strong. 46 minutes, and Palmer goal beats Pope at the near post, which I think Pope should have done better. What did you make of this game? Because I felt like Newcastle were just a bit meh. They had a few flashes here and there, but nothing. But then I felt like Chelsea took off the steam and intensity as well. Very, very bizarre game of football. I didn't enjoy it. I can't lie.
Yeah, it's one of those where Newcastle definitely played some nice stuff, and it was kind of a bit without any real substance, and I think that's been one of the problems for them all season. But I thought Chelsea controlled the game really well, and that's something that's been missing from them over recent years, that ability to control games. And they should have really been out of sight in the first half of the chances that they had. But yeah, like you said, Palmer, when he gets playing like that, he's untouchable. And when you've got Jackson starting to fire the goals in, and he looks much more threatening and composed, just like I've been saying with Darwin Núñez, he's looking a lot more settled now, and maybe maybe it is just a confidence thing with these players, and Chelsea certainly have a lot of that at the minute.
I quite like the Livramento and Neto battle. I thought Arpia is doing really well for Chelsea.
Yeah, he is actually, because obviously he was injured a lot last season, wasn't he? So he never really managed to get a foot into the team. But him and Caicedo do seem to be playing well alongside each other. And Pedro Neto, I mean, he's barely started for them in the league so far, has he? Unless I'm wrong by saying that.
You're right. He comes on as a sub here and there.
And he's a player I've rated for a long time, and I think he's one. Him and Madueke on the two wings, I thought were really good today. And if you've got them to either side with Palmer behind Jackson, I think they'll cause a lot of teams problems.
Indeed. Chelsea do look like the real deal, to be absolutely fair with you. Right, so we've done the Sunday kickoffs. Guess, Ben, I'm taking you to Brentford versus Ipswich. It finished 4-3, 3 o'clock kickoff. It seemed like a fun game. Talk to me about this one. Whistle was back for Brentford. The lap was on the bench for Ipswich. Ipswich going 2-0 up.
Yeah, it's so like deflating for Ipswich, I'd imagine. 2-0 up. Some of the football they were playing was brilliant. I know the lap was on the bench, but was it George Hurst was leading the line for them, and he's a player has done quite well in the Championship over recent seasons and hasn't really had the chance so far in the Premier League. And he played brilliantly. He got the assist for the first one and a lovely finish for the second one. And that's the potential that Ipswich do have. I found this game really like the good and the bad of Ipswich. Some of the football they were playing was brilliant, and then Harry Clark, the Ipswich defender, just decides to sabotage his own team. I'm sure he scored an own goal, then gave away a penalty and got sent off. So that's one of the, you don't see that very often. And from there, Brentford kind of pushed on, and Bremo, brilliant again. What a player he's been this season. And I think if he continues his form, I'm sure a big team like Arsenal and Liverpool will be in for him.
I think so too. I think I think they've absolutely done fine without, Ivan Toney. He missed that all. The lap did make it, did get the third goal, and then an injury time winner by Mbeumo, right? And
it just runs all the way through, doesn't it?
It does. It's just absolutely annoying for Ipswich, and at Ipswich, they were still trying. I think Delap hits the post as well in that little period of play as well. But yeah, they just need to win a game of football.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what we've been saying all along. I think once they get one win, then they could easily go on a run of form where they pick up points, and because the performances have been there in spells, but they just can't seem to put it together for 90 minutes at the minute. And I'm sure that's something that McKenna's really trying to push them towards, but I don't know whether it's just maybe a lack of experience in the top flight, or maybe a bit of naivety from them, or I don't know. It's really frustrating for them, but defensively they really need to improve quickly. I thought they started quite well defensively at the start of the season, but over recent weeks it's really took a hit.
It has taken a hit, and the goalkeeper looked like he was completely losing his head as well. Like, it just felt like, the pressure was just kind of mounting, and yeah, not good. Let's see who Ipswich have next. Oh, it's a 3 o'clock kickoff. They are playing Leicester.
Yeah, I forgot. I was doing an article the other day on Leicester, and I know we'll get on to Leicester in a bit, but obviously they had Forest on Friday, and then they have Ipswich next, and that's a massive 2 games for them. And this is surely the one that Ipswich are really setting the sights on. They need to win this, otherwise, if they don't win next week, God knows when it could be by the time they grab the first win.
This is it, see. You're right. And I think both teams will be absolutely gunning for that one. Because I think Leicester are in dire need of points as well. And if you're not winning these kind of games, it looks a bit suspect for you. So yeah, hopefully that should be a good game. But you went there, so let's talk about it. Leicester City 1, Nottingham Forest 3. Chris Woods bringing back the old school striker.
Yeah, what a player, man. Honestly, it's one of those where you just look at him and you wouldn't think he'd be as good as what he is. But that first finish, the first goal, what a finish! That is, it's just one of those like you just want to watch it on repeat. It's that good. It's like your typical number 9 playing. Yeah, when you've got him up front and the likes of Hudson-Odoi and Alanga either side of him creating, but I've said it a few times, but they will cause problems for anyone. And when you've got the hard work of Yates and Dominguez behind them, they just look like a really well-rounded team at the minute. And I don't think many teams are. Well, I don't think any team this season, if they keep on playing like this, will have a comfortable game against them. So, but then on the flip side, it's poor from Leicester.
It is. I definitely think like if you look at the first goal that Nottingham Forest scored, I think it was Yates around about 16 minutes, and there's a Buonanotte trying to dribble out from his own half.
Yeah.
It's just a really, really messy situation. And then the goal that makes it 3-1, Wood's second, Fares heads it, and then he just pounces on his header and puts it past the keeper. You're right. I think this is the problem with these newly promoted sides. They just defensively are just not, which you expect and you understand, but
yeah,
they can't be.
Yeah. I mean, the strange thing for me with Leicester is Faiz, who was to blame for that third goal. He was in the side last time they were in the Premier League, and he was nowhere near the level needed.
He almost got a hat-trick of goals against Liverpool and no own goals. Right?
I'm sure he scored 3 or 4 own goals in one season the last time he was in the Premier League. And he always has a mistake in him. And it just makes you wonder what. Surely you look to try and build on that before coming back to the Premier League. I don't know whether these defences have just got too used to controlling games and not having much to do in the Championship, but I don't know. It's really poor from Leicester, and this was a big game. It's a derby apparently. People say it's a derby. So if they could have picked 3 points up here, that would have been 3 wins on the bounce and then going into Ipswich, so would have been in a brilliant position. So I'm sure Steve Cooper's kind of pulling his hair out with that.
Yeah, but credit to Nottingham Forest. What a glow up they've had from last season.
Yeah. I thought they'd be down there this season. In all honesty, at the start of the season, I thought they were one team to maybe look out for relegation candidates. But now they're proving everyone wrong. They've been absolutely amazing at the start of the season. Hopefully they can keep it up, but. Time will tell. Nobody's expecting them to stay as high as what they are now, but there's no reason why they can't be aiming for maybe a top 10 finish.
I agree with you, and I think that's what they're probably setting their sights on as well. And of course, there was no Nuno on the bench for this one, facing the ban. But yeah,
always on his phone.
Yeah, always honest. Yeah, things are looking good for them. Right, let's go to the 5:30 kickoff now. Everton 1, Fulham 1. This was a snooze fest for me. I can't lie.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of this game. It was kind of like
it lived up to the. This is exactly the kind of game.
Yeah.
I think these two teams. I don't know.
That's exactly what I was about to say. If I say to you, Everton Fulham on a Saturday night game, it's got 1-1 wrote all over it, and just like missed chance after missed chance, defensive error after defensive error. But yeah, it's kind of just I've got here the battle of two teams that just don't have any finishing end product sort of thing. And I think we spoke last week about the reliance on Raul Jimenez to score goals, and the point still stands. I know Iwobi grabbed the goal yesterday, but it also feels like every week we're saying that Adama Traore is missing 3 or 4 golden opportunities, and that just doesn't seem to be changing. So, yeah, it's exactly how I thought it would have went.
Yeah, Jimenez was still a bit of a live wire for Fulham. I will give him credit there. Just obviously he didn't score, but you him trying, and he's trying to put crosses in. He just looks like himself, and I'm thrilled for him. Meanwhile, Calvert-Lewin is just, I just don't know what to say. If that's your leading striker, it's really problematic. But yeah, I think the highlight from that first half probably Gray hitting the crossbar, and Lewin did score, but the rebound was offside, and rightly so. Yeah. Second half, I think the shocking thing here was the way Smith Rowe was allowed to just take that ball and just kind of, I'm going to run into the right now. No, I don't like it here. I'm just going to run this way now. And it was shocking, the fact that he was allowed to run the distance that he was allowed to navigate himself in different directions, and nobody came close to him. That is bad.
Yeah, it isn't. Like I said, I think both these teams are kind of susceptible to these kind of performances where
And
I don't know whether,
Pete on his near post.
yeah. It's just these kind of games that both teams will be frustrated by that because I think both teams will definitely think they could have done more to win it, and I think both teams think they could have done more to limit the opposition from getting the chances that they had as well. So I think it's just one of those. I think they'll both move on. It's not an awful result for either of them, but I think the performance will be one to be improved, especially for Everton. I'm sure they were really hoping to get another 3 points and build on the form that they've been showing lately, but which wasn't to be.
I'll tell you what, though, they will be thrilled because obviously the 94th minute, the sub Beto comes on and scores, which, if you're in Goodison and you, like, before your little run of good form, shall we say, you're constantly losing, like, that's, I still think that's a pretty decent point for them, given the circumstances.
Oh, yeah.
It isn't an enjoyable game of football. And I guess we expected that. So I shouldn't really be surprised and I shouldn't really grumble too much.
Yeah, like you said, a few weeks ago, they would have been paying good money for moments like that. So, yeah, it's just one of those. Both teams will move on and they'll pick up different positives and negatives from that performance and try and build on it. But it's hardly the most inspiring performance from either of them.
Absolutely, right. We've got 3 games left. Which one should we talk about next?
Let's go Villa Bournemouth.
Oh, let's go with Villa Bournemouth. Villa are flying high, doing really well in the Champions League. Let's just say how it is. Bournemouth fresh off that win against Arsenal. So what? Kepa was out, so Traoré came in. What did you make of this one?
I thought it was actually quite a good game. It was quite feisty. I'm sure I checked at one point and there was 7 yellow cards by like the 55th minute or something. But yeah, I thought it was a good game. Villa played some really nice stuff. Probably should have been out of sight before the game really flipped towards Bournemouth. I do think Bournemouth should have had a penalty. I think that was a 1-0, where it hits Leon Bailey on the arm, and I was listening to the commentary on it, and the commentators were saying it's accidental, but just because a handball is accidental, I mean, I'd like to think nobody's intentionally handballing the ball in the box. But just because it's accidental, it doesn't mean that it's not a foul. I thought that was handball and it should have been a penalty to Bournemouth. But like I say, I thought Villa should have been out of sight.
Yeah, and obviously Ross Barkley getting the goal for them. And then speaking of injury time equalisers, Ivan Nilsson is doing really well for Bournemouth. I feel like he's really settling in, but gets the goal. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's a really good result for Bournemouth. I mean, if they were looking at those 2 games, Arsenal then Aston Villa, and you told them they would get 4 points out of it, they would have been absolutely over the moon with that. So, and like you say, I do really like Evan Nilsson. I think he's going to keep on going, and it'll be a real threat up front for them.
Absolutely, and I like the little turnaround as well because obviously he did miss that penalty against Chelsea. And I think from then, players can really shrink, right? And he seems to really kicked on, and obviously was a key figure for them against Arsenal last weekend, and it's good to see him getting the goals as well. So, and especially with of course Solanke leaving as well, so they'll be reliant on that. Right, let's move on. We've got 2 more games. I say let's talk about Man City and Southampton. So it's an early goal for Haaland. We know this. I thought the floodgates would open for them.
Yeah, I was expecting it.
Didn't quite happen. And I don't know, where do you stand with this? Because I felt like going 1-0 down, I thought Southampton actually decided to defend quite well or, put up some kind of fight in a defensive sense. So losing is never good.
Yeah, I know what you're about to say.
It's never good. It's not. And especially like the way Southampton are as well. But like, can they take maybe some positives from like their attitude and their performance?
Yeah, I think they can. And I know people will hear people saying that like they lost, it's not that good. But if you offered them that result at the start, I think they would have took it. And the Southampton have been absolutely woeful defensively. I mean, it was only last week that they collapsed against Leicester horribly. So to go 1-0 down to Man City and to keep it that way, and they're still towards the end put on a little bit of pressure. I'm not going to say that they had Man City on the ropes or anything like that, but yeah, I think the game plan was quite... Once they went 1-0 down, I think it was just a case of keeping it down to 1-0 and then seeing what you could nick at the end, and they couldn't nick anything in the end. But I think maybe not a concern for Man City, because, I mean, it's hard to be concerned with anything when you're a fan for Man City. But they do seem to be struggling to break teams down, and I saw a stat, I'm sure it's 8 goals outside the box already this season, which does just suggest to me that they are struggling to break teams down, and whether that's because of the injury to De Bruyne or Foden's maybe not hitting his standards just yet, but they're winning when they're playing badly, and well, not badly, but they're not hitting the standards that they're always hitting, but they're winning either way, and maybe that's the kind of thing that Man City have been. When you look at recent seasons where Liverpool are pushing really hard, and the Wolves' performances where they would losers, they're winning when they're not at the best, and that's kind of what you got to do if you want to be champions, and they know that more than anyone. So yeah, it's just one of those. They'll move on and they'll get the points, and I'm sure they'll be happy. But I'm sure Pep will be trying to get some influence on their attacking play and try and put games to bed a bit sooner.
I think so too. And speaking of Southampton, their next game is at home to Everton.
Yeah, that's a big game.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge game. And I think they'll probably just kind of grow from the fact that, hey, you know what, if we just kind of hold this defensive discipline and shape, and maybe we can nick a goal somewhere. I think both teams will I think that's the thing with Southampton. They just need to hold their defensive shape, which they've not been doing.
Yeah.
I highlighted that as well. So we'll take a lot from that.
Yeah, and I just wonder quickly on the Southampton thing, how many times this season have we blamed them for the way they pass out from the back? And I can't say I've seen an awful lot of the game on Saturday, but I'd imagine maybe the mentality made them not play out from the back with it being away at Man City. And
especially against Man City as well.
Yeah.
What they'll do to you.
Yeah, and then look, they've put in a decent defensive display, so maybe it is just that thing of maybe a mentality sort of thing where maybe it does prove the point of maybe they do just need to kind of cut back on that playing out from the back, because teams will punish you, and I wonder whether that was something to do with it.
I feel bad for newly promoted sides, because if they park the bus, they get criticised. If they play out from the back, they get
criticised. It is true. Yeah.
Find your style and be good at it. That's I don't care how you do it.
Yeah, I don't mind how people do it. I just think there's a really kind of...
If you're a beast playing at the back, you're not wrong.
Yeah, there's a line where it's just whether it's stubborn and stupid, whether you just stick with it when it's evidently not working. That's the only problem I have with it. But yeah, I mean, I was... Burnley were in the league so long where they were playing unattractive football, and they ended up getting to Europe through it, and nobody really raised concerns about it there. So I would say I wouldn't worry too much about the style you play. The results are way more important, and I'm sure Russell Martin would rather play a less attractive style of play, maybe sitting somewhere like West Ham are, even though they haven't been great. But the point still stands. Just get points however you can, and whatever you think suits your team best. But when it start working, you don't want to be out of it before you know it. That's all. That's kind of the worrying thing for the likes of Southampton and Ipswich.
I completely agree with you. Right, last game of game week 9, Brighton versus Wolves finished 2-2. I think this is a humongous point for Wolves.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this one.
Yeah, it's a huge one. Brighton started really well, and Welbeck scored again. Mm-hmm. And then obviously Evan Ferguson coming on and scoring. So, he scored.
Late on as well, right? Late on.
Yeah.
Something, so the game stayed at 1-0 for quite some time.
Yeah, and you thought when Ferguson scored, you thought that's the final nail in the coffin for Wolves. And that would have been a horrible result for Wolves as well. It shows how quickly football fans can change opinions and perspectives. 5 minutes at the end have completely flipped the narrative. But and just quickly on Brighton, we spoke so much about the attacking talent that they have, and Matoma and Welbeck, and now you've got Ferguson coming back into that. It's scary how many options they have, but that attack where they're 4-on-1, I think that's a 2-1 and they lose the ball. Oh my God, it's...
nerves of steel there, getting the ball.
It's great defending. It's just awful from Brighton as well, though. It's so unlike Brighton as well. You'd think in that situation, out of the teams in the league, Brighton would be up there for who you would rely on and make it count, or just run to the corner. Honestly, anything but do what they're doing. And yeah, it's kind of suicide from Brighton. And
there goes the wild deflection as well.
Yeah, in off the crossbar as well, I think, isn't it? Oh, it's just one of those. It's just you're left pulling your hair out after that.
You are, absolutely. But a massive, result for Wolves, because I don't think they've been playing bad.
No, they're nowhere near as bad as what the league table suggests.
No, but I agree. And they have climbed off from bottom, so there's some positives there for them. I think it might have been Alan Shaver actually on Match of the Day that said, because those 2 goals for Wolves came at, like at the dying end of the game. And he goes, the fact that is an indication that the players are still fighting for him. And, he's not lost them.
Yeah, I'm just looking here now at the upcoming games as well. It's such a good run of games for Wolves as well. I'll try and read them out as quickly as possible, but they've got Palace next.
Mm-hmm.
Then Southampton, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham, Ipswich, Leicester. That's all up until Christmas. So you'd fancy them to really, if they're going to turn the season around, it's got to be in the next month and a half, and see where they are come Christmas. But that's a really, really favourable run of games for them.
That really is. I think the only place where I can probably see them maybe dropping points is probably Fulham.
Yeah, because obviously Fulham are doing well at the minute, but
yeah,
it's still one of those where I'm sure they, if they pick up a few wins before that, or a couple of wins before that, they'll fancy the chances there as well. So it's just so hard to look that far ahead, but they've definitely got the quality to turn it around.
They do, right? We have come to the end of game week 9. Ben, anything you kind of want to get up your chest? We're in the injury time of this podcast. Anything you want to contribute? Anything you want to say about the games, the results, the fixtures, referees? I don't know. Anything?
Just the kicking a ball off someone's face isn't a foul.
Good to know. Tell our friend from Manchester that.
And also tell Arteta to stop lying about injuries, because it's not cool.
Well, you know what? I'm going to say he kind of jinxed himself there, because he's started going down like flies. But yeah, now you have real injuries. I've not caught up with the post-match comments. I'm sure he'll say they're out for 6 months or something. Who knows? But yeah, Ben, before I let you go, where can people find you on social media, and what have you been working on? Because I know you've been really busy, and I know you've got a lot of things coming up.
Yeah, so Ben Pescott Journal on Twitter. That's where you'll find all my articles and all my sort of opinions and stuff like that. So last week, off the top of my head, I spotted MUFC, which was quite cool. I got all stuff on Anfield Index about that, and EPL Index about Leicester and so on, and Aston Villa. And I think I'm fairly sure I'll have a couple more sort of interviews coming up this week as well. So keep an eye out for them. They're always really fascinating to do and fascinating to put out. So any sort of feedback I can get on them, I really enjoy doing them. So yeah, just keep an eye out on there. That's where all my work will be.
Wonderful, guys. Do check out EPL. Do check out AI. That's where you'll find Ben's work. And do give him a follow on social media. He's a really good follow. That's it from me, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed game week 9 of the Final Whistle podcast. We'll be back next weekend with plenty more football and plenty more things to talk about. Till next time, take care.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.